Hello and welcome to today's session where we will answer the most common questions we get from Honda associates like you about your retirement plan. I'm Tony Dalton with McCarthy & Cox, a founding firm of Kintra, and I'm joined by three of our advisors who are all certified financial planners, CFPs, as well as acting as fiduciaries when they serve our clients. Megan McCarthy Collins, TJ Metzger, and Quinn Michelson will be the persons today answering those questions. So Megan, let's jump right into it then.
Okay.
What are the various Honda pension options and what are some of the pros and cons of each?
Absolutely. So the pension choices that you have access to as you're preparing and making that big decision around retirement, it can be kind of daunting, but it's a really big decision. There are several different options from the Honda pension that are available. So there are the traditional paths. When we think of a pension, we think of monthly guaranteed income for life. Those options are available, and there's several variations on that front. Honda's pension also offers a lump sum where the retiree takes on the responsibility, doesn't get a guaranteed monthly income amount, but they get kind of a bucket of money. Then, not literally, but they have access to the full lump sum value. And then it's up to the retiree to come up with a plan or work with a professional to understand, okay, well, what's the plan for this money? How do we invest it? How do we not outlive it? How do we utilize it as a part of a bigger picture? And but as associate or the retiree is taking on the responsibility of those investment choices and decisions. It's not a guaranteed payment from the pension system anymore, or the pension benefit. For the monthly income or the traditional pensions, it can be just or it can be an option selected for the retiree for their lifetime. But you can also add a survivor benefit. So it can be for a spouse or partner. You can add another person to also receive a benefit, either equal to what the retiree receives during their lifetime, or it can be a lesser amount, and there's a variation depending on what makes the most sense for folks. And the third option kind of falls into that monthly income area is one tied to Social Security. So one of the options has a little bit more money up front on the monthly income benefit. And then once you reach age 62, which is the earliest you can file for Social Security, the pension decreases with the assumption that other income would step in from maybe a Social Security benefit at that point. So the pros and cons. The pension provides income you can't outlive. If your health expenses accelerate and in your older age, then it's not a benefit that your partner or spouse that you can outlive, then it's still available to your partner or spouse for you. The lump sum gives you the option of you have more control, but you also have more risk and responsibility. And so it's kind of not a one-size-fits-all for anybody. It's really a personalized decision. We encourage everybody to look at all options and not make the assumption that one is the only way to go.
Thanks, Megan. And that's a great start to one of the most basic and familiar questions that we get from Honda associates.
Absolutely.
So TJ, Megan shared some information about the Honda pension options and pros and cons. When you think about working with our Honda clients, what are some of the important ages as it pertains to the Honda pension, the 401k access, and the IRA access?
Yeah, I'll start with the Honda pension. So at age 55, you are considered retirement age and receive 86% of your maximum benefits with 30 years of service. At age 65, that's when your pension benefit percentage can actually start to decrease. And then 62, that's what we call the sweet spot. That's when you receive your full normal retirement benefits. And then for your 401k at age 50, that's when your maximum contributions increase. At age 60, those can increase again. And then at age 55, once you're separated from service, you're allowed to withdraw penalty-free from your 401k. Now, those withdrawals are always subject to ordinary income tax rates. Uncle Sam needs to...
He's not that nice.
Yeah, exactly. Then your IRA, lastly, at age 59 and a half, you can withdraw penalty-free, and all those withdrawals are taxable as well.
Okay, thanks. So Quinn, TJ shared some information with us about the Honda pension and the 401k access and IRA access. Well, one that we often hear too is, how much does it cost you if you want to retire before age 55?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and one that comes up quite a bit. As you may imagine, there's a lot of folks that have been at Honda an awfully long time, and we won't pretend to know what that feels like, but certainly for folks, anybody that's spent any time in assembly, on the line, and things like that, those years of wear and tear can catch up with you. And so certainly there's a lot of people that are looking to get out of Honda and retire as soon as they possibly can. And so we get that question from time to time of, hey, if I go a little bit sooner, earlier than age 55, what does that look like for me, kind of to your point? And, the basic answer as it pertains to the pension is you can lose anywhere between 30 and 40% of that lump sum pension value. And the same equivalent value gets lost on the monthly pension as well. So it's a really, really big step back in way of your pension benefit value. The other ancillary benefits, if you want to call them that you're foregoing by retiring before age 55 are things like the retiree health insurance plan, which is a very, very big benefit for people that may not plan to get another job after Honda. With any sort of group health insurance plan option, that's going to be a big deal for them. So we really caution folks, if at all possible, if you can, try to make it to at least 55 because you're giving up an awful lot by going any earlier than that. And then one other side note that I would add to this comes up from time to time as sort of a related topic, is, hey, what if I have a fully vested pension benefit and I haven't commenced that pension benefit yet and I pass away? What happens for my spouse if she was a listed beneficiary of my pension? And the short answer on that is, if you have not commenced the pension benefit yet, there's a full 50% reduction in that scenario. So just something else to consider as you are trying to plan for the future.
So it sounds like to me that if you leave Honda before age 55, you didn't retire, you quit.
That's more or less the outcome there. That is the way Honda looks at it.
Okay.
Is that you quit, you did not formally retire.
Okay, thanks for that. So Megan, earlier you answered a question about some of the Honda pension options and the pros and cons. Well, what are some of the considerations if you take the lump sum pension you talked about earlier?
Yeah, a lot of people, when we look at the different options available with the pension election, the pension benefit, it feels almost human nature for our eyes to be drawn to the single biggest number in the list, which is the lump sum. And so it can be kind of razzle-dazzle, dare I say the big sexy number on the page. But however, it doesn't mean that it's always the best option for every single person looking to retire. So it really is individualized. And so our process, or what we really recommend everybody look at, is have a feel or have a plan, more than a feeling, have a real idea of where your income is going to come from in retirement. What do you need? Where is it going to come from? And then what's the plan to get from point A to point B? And so once you have that roadmap of sorts, it can provide some clarity. Can you get the income that you need from the lump sum in a reasonable way by taking reasonable risk, or do we get a bigger, more consistent income stream from the traditional pension? That often can be the case. And so we want to look at what resources you have outside of this retirement benefit, the Honda pension. What do you have in your 401k? What may your spouse or partner, what have you saved as a household for retirement benefits? And then also, and so that comes into that plan. Other things folks should really consider are what type of longevity does your picture look like? And that's really individualized. And so if you're going to live for a really long time and we need the most income, the maximum income possible, the traditional pension can safeguard against those types of things. One of the things we also encourage folks to look at in weighing the lump sum decision is what happens if your health fails. It's not the fun and exciting part of retirement planning or thinking ahead to your future, but it is something that can accelerate or change costs later in our lives. And the lump sum is an option, but if our cost of care, or we're not able to live as independently as we are initially, do we have enough resources to pay for that care so you're not foregoing medical care? But are there enough resources to cover that? How do you address that? And especially if you have a spouse or partner that we're accounting for if in that picture, are they going to have enough potential resources if you do go to the nursing home, don't get better, and don't come home, you pass, what's their particular picture potentially look like? And so it's not a one size off the cuff, you got to take the lump sum, you got to take the pension payments. It really is, what's your plan? What are your resources? How do we get from point A to point B? And what risks are you really comfortable with? One of the benefits of the lump sum is you can control the investments, you can direct how it gets invested and potentially grows. It's a potential over time. But if you're not comfortable with that level of risk, or it's going to really make you uneasy, taking the traditional pension payments is a more conservative path often because it's consistent. Now, on that side as well, if we need a little bit more, say we're going to put a new fence in the backyard and we need 2 months worth of pension income, we can't call up the pension and say, hey, can you give me, I know it's August, but I'd really love to get September and October next month. Don't worry about October's payment. I would like it a little early. It doesn't work that way. It's a consistent monthly income. So those are some of the considerations, but I think fundamentally it comes down to what risk are you comfortable with? What's the potential risk for a health event, or if you're not able to be independent later in life, and how would you address that? And also, what are your other resources, and who are we planning for? So putting those kind of puzzles on the table together can help put together a clearer picture. And it sounds like a lot of questions, but all those answers come from the individual. But those are the things we encourage folks to think about and to really consider.
So the lump sum may be that biggest number on the page,
Yeah.
and yet it may not automatically be the best option. And as fiduciaries, that's one of the ways that we serve our clients. We're always going to look at both options and then advise our clients on what we believe is best for them.
Absolutely. And sometimes, maybe often, it could go either way. It really becomes, what are you most comfortable with? What makes the most sense for your financial picture and for your goals?
Thanks, Megan.
Absolutely.
So what effect do interest rates have on the Honda pension, and why can they affect value so much?
Yeah, interest rate changes don't directly affect the monthly pension amount. It typically affects the lump sum value. So there's an inverse relationship between interest rates and the lump sum value. So as interest rates increase, that means that the pension plan needs to allocate a smaller lump sum value to pay the equivalent monthly pension amount. And it's really vice versa with interest rates if they decide to decrease. So there are 3 important dates on the pension calendar. So October 15th, that's the actuarial calculations are done. Those determine interest rate changes that have taken place from the prior year and determine the implications on the pension values. December 15th, you as an associate are able to run a pension estimate on both March 1st and April 1st of the upcoming year to see the difference in the lump sum values. And then the April 1st deadline, that's the deadline to commence your pension benefit prior to any changes taking effect.
Okay. So no wonder it gets complicated for people to figure out.
It's tight deadlines.
Yeah.
Gotta make sure we get them.
Absolutely. So TJ, what's the best month to retire if interest rates have gone up and you're taking the lump sum pension?
Yeah, first I'd consider the implications that interest rates have on the lump sum. So there's an inverse relationship between the interest rates and the lump sum. So as interest rates increase, that lump sum value decreases.
Okay.
So the new pension calculations take effect on April 1st, so you really benefit from a March 1st retirement date. There is one caveat to that, so you must retire by March 1st. If you retire on the 2nd, then your pension won't commence until the following month's first day.
So TJ just shared some information with us around interest rates and how they can impact the pension as well. So when you think about those monthly payments, those annuity payments, can private annuities match the Honda monthly pension amounts on a worst case basis?
On a worst case basis, it's a really good question. That the answer for the last several years has generally been no. On a worst case basis, a lot of times you'll need an annuity to provide very strong underlying investment returns in order for that monthly income that's generated from that annuity product to outpace what the Honda monthly pension would, in the end, ultimately pay you. So it's one of those things that, as most people are aware of, maybe not, annuities are a tool in the toolbox. It's not like the pension options, it's not a one size fits all. You got to do a lot of research on what the guarantees of each specific product are really providing you before signing any paperwork and doing things like that. And our firm does have the ability to sell annuities. We don't sell commission-based annuity products, but it's not something that very often gets used as a substitute for the Honda monthly pension option, because it's very hard to provide the same guarantee and stability without market risk that an annuity may provide. So that being said, generally speaking, you really want to look into all the underneath the hood details of an annuity product before signing up for one. And we strongly encourage anyone out there that's considering an annuity in lieu of taking the monthly pension option for Honda to contact a fiduciary and get their opinion before signing any paperwork.
So once again, no cut and dried answer. And one of the ways that we serve our clients is by exploring all those options, whether it's Honda or private or whatever.
100%.
So Quinn, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the Honda Retiree Health Insurance Plan. How does that work, and what are some of the considerations that our Honda associates need to have at retirement?
Yeah, so this question, and well, not just this specific question, but plenty of questions about the Honda Retiree Health Insurance Plan come up a lot for us in our meetings with clients. And so at a very base level, the Retiree Health Insurance Plan, first and foremost, is completely separate from the associate plan that folks are on for health insurance. So you are transitioning 100% from the associate health insurance plan to a very new plan with new copays, deductibles, all of that stuff. So that's something to be aware of. It's not the same exact plan that you transition to. And at a base level, it's basically set up to where there is a subsidy that Honda is going to provide to you to offset the cost of that insurance every month. Mm-hmm. But the base number of that total premium every year is going to change year over year. So that's why every year the amount that you end up paying is going to vary a little bit. Honda's subsidy that they're giving you every month to offset the total cost is going to be the same, but that total cost every month is going to change year to year. So starting out, it's all going to depend on your years of service as to how much subsidy that you'll receive from Honda to offset those premiums. And then going forward, you're going to be responsible for the portion that's not covered by that subsidy. Now, one of the other great benefits that Honda gives you when you retire is you get a pot of money called the Retiree Reimbursement Account. And that is also a benefit that is based on your years of service credit. So they credit $1,000 for every year of service you have, and that is maxed out at 30 years. So if you end up working for 32 years and you retire, you don't get $32,000, you get $30,000. But that pot of money can be used to help offset those monthly insurance premiums in retirement. That's something we help a lot of our clients with, to set up those reimbursements automatically to come back into your checking account every month. But that's a big benefit out there that we don't see very many other employers providing. So one, very important to know that it's out there. And then two, very important to know what's eligible to be reimbursed from that medical account. And from our experience, they'll reimburse just about anything from that account, as long as you have documentation of the service or product provided.
That's interesting, because for any of us, and certainly for our Honda associates too, medical coverage after retirement is a really big deal. So as a Honda retiree, they have that option. At many companies today, there are no retiree medical plans. So that's a big thing to look at with them as well.
Yes, 100%. And I actually was thinking about one other thing as you said that, Tony. Another question that comes up a lot about their Honda Retiree Health Insurance Plan is spousal coverage, and whether or not Honda's going to do away with that at some point in the future. As things stand today, spouses are still able to be carried on the Retiree Health Insurance Plan as a dependent. Their costs are going to be significantly higher than the associates or the retirees, but their premiums are still offset by a subsidy that's just smaller than what the associate gets. And so right now, the spouse can still be carried on that plan. If you have a spouse that may still be working when you as the Honda retiree decides to retire, one important thing that we always tell clients is make sure your spouse is on that associate plan when you retire. That is the only way that your spouse can come back onto that retiree health insurance plan later on if they need to.
Yeah, that's a detail that could really matter.
We've had a few people miss that particular one, so we like to remind folks of that at every opportunity.
Great. Thanks, Quinn.
You bet.
So we've heard answers to a lot of the common questions we receive from you as Honda associates. So we're going to move into the last one, Megan, that we're going to cover that we hear a lot from our clients as well. So what are some of the considerations that Honda associates should be making with a financial planner before deciding on their retirement?
Absolutely. So retiring in and of itself is a big transition. It is a process, not only a checklist of to-dos, but it's a mental checklist. There's somewhat of an emotional checklist. And so working with a financial professional, and we have a bias that we really recommend people work with certified financial planners because it comes with a fiduciary requirement. And that requires us to put the needs and interests of our client first and acknowledge any conflicts of interest when they come up, because they do and they will, but to be forthright with that information and to put the client first and to center what's best for them as opposed to something just off the shelf because it worked last week and we'll use that. No, it's really client-centered. And so it's somebody you trust, somebody that's knowledgeable, someone that is listening to you and your concerns, and that you're feeling heard and you're comfortable with. Because to navigate these decisions, it is deeply personal and it is a really big deal. Not many people retire multiple times. And our firm has the experience of helping a lot of people, a lot of Honda associates as well, make this transition. And so we can help folks shorten the learning curve because we have that experience and knowledge base. And that fiduciary requirement, like I mentioned, is really at the center and the heart of everything that we do. We live in the community, we serve our neighbors, and we really take that to heart in our approach in the way that we work with folks. So am I being heard? Do I know what's being offered? Am I ready to retire? I may emotionally, mentally be ready, but do I have a plan for what that next journey looks like? Do I need to work in retirement? If so, how much? For how long? What are the things that I want to do in retirement? What does that picture look like? Sit down and really think about it, because if you know where you're going, it's much easier to make a plan and set priorities as to what is reasonable, attainable, but also you can do with a reasonable amount of risk as well. So I think I touched on someone knowledgeable, has the credentials and the requirement to center you as the soon-to-be retiree, understanding of where you are, what you want to do, and not only looking at just the exciting stuff. Part of the process and the plan, and especially with some of these benefit decisions, is, well, let's look at if things go great, which is wonderful. We want to be optimistic. It's very exciting, but there's so much in life and in this process that we can't control. We don't have access to a secret stock market. It's the same investment environment that everybody has access to. And so if your plan works, when things go well, that's awesome. That's great. That's what we want. That's what we hope. But what if things that we can't control, what if some of these factors work in not the most optimal way? What if there's a period where the market underperforms? Does your plan potentially hold up? Does that annuity that you were looking at have guarantees, not just in the best environment, but in a underperforming or worst case, that negative kind of market environment? Does it still hold up and does it still work? We don't need everything to go right. We just need your plan to work. And so if we build in opportunities, obviously we want things to go well. Don't mishear me. But we want to look at the whole picture because you're a whole person and it's a whole process.
Okay. And we've done a lot in this session to answer the questions that we hear from you as Honda associates. So the last question we have is from us to you. And that's simply, what are you doing to plan for your retirement? If you don't have a clear answer for that and you're not all set, let us know. We'll gladly help you in any way we can, and we'll serve you with integrity and common sense planning. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Certain sections of this commentary may contain forward-looking statements based on reasonable expectations, estimates, projections, and assumptions. Forward-looking statements are not guarantees of future performance and involve certain risks and uncertainties which are difficult to predict. All indices are unmanaged and are not available for direct investment by the public. Past performance is not indicative of future results. This podcast is provided for general information purposes only and does not constitute either tax, legal, or financial advice. Please consult a tax preparer, professional tax advisor, financial advisor, or lawyer regarding your specific circumstances. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. No strategy can guarantee any objective or goal will be achieved.